One is called Quite Savage Garden, which is not a bad title, I don't think, and it comes from Elle. Okay, thank you, Elle. Simon, Joe and Bobby, although born and bred in England, I now live in New Zealand. And when I first arrived in the country, I worked as an au pair for a fairly wealthy family, caring for their two very full-on boys before and after school. I kept the house in order, conquered mountains of laundry daily, and often cooked for the family. I would say that I worked above and beyond the family, considering the absolute pittance I got paid. However, being the ever-obliging, polite English girl, I just got on with what needed to be done. Then one very sunny Friday morning, to my absolute delight, the family informed me I wouldn't need to collect the children from school that day. In fact, the parents were picking them up from school early and heading out for a weekend on their yacht. This was fantastic news. I'd be able to drop the boys off at school in the morning, quickly complete my daily tasks, and hopefully clock off at about midday. It would be an almost extra long weekend. I could join my friends at the pub at 4 p.m. instead of 7 p.m. and enjoy some wines in the sun. I was elated, as this never happens. Then I received a text message just after midday. The mother of the family suggested that, seeing as I wasn't collecting the boys from school, I could clean the lounge windows in preparation for their open home next week. Now, this was not a small task. The windows were floor to ceiling, wrapping around the front of the lounge and into the front garden. It was covered with many messy handprints from the boys. This was highly inconvenient and terribly timed, as I was already geared up to hit the pub and had clocked off for the weekend. And after all, I was their au pair, not their blooming cleaner, for heaven's sake. I was fuming, and I'm writing in capital letters at this point. That said, I was a complete walkover and accepted that I really had no choice in the matter. I began cleaning the windows in the scorching heat, starting indoors, then making my way outside. Cleaning and subsequent sweating was ruining my makeup, and I hoped the neighbour's handsome son didn't come home any time soon. I awkwardly climbed between flower beds to get to the windows, and it was then I noticed the flourishing herb and vegetable garden right next to me. In a moment of sheer anger, I made sure the coast was clear and spritzed the herb garden with my potent window cleaning spray.
What?
Yes, I spritzed the herb garden with my window cleaning spray. The gardener's getting very cross.
Not forgiven.
May I say spritz, but I admit I may have gotten a little carried away. The Mr. Muscle just kept on coming, and I thoroughly drenched any living plant that sat in that planter box. Revenge was sweet. The satisfaction was unbelievable, but I also thought, what's the worst that could happen? A couple of brown spots on the lettuce? They'll just think it was slugs. I finished cleaning the windows, feeling rather smug, and was impressed with how clean they all looked, actually. A quick freshen up, and I was soon at the pub, sitting and sipping my Sauvignon Blanc. I do vividly remember stumbling home that night, heading up the garden path, only to be hit with a strong, fragrant smell of window cleaner seeping from the vegetable garden as I tried to fumble my key into the lock. The sweet smell of success, I thought. Following day, I received another text message. The weather out at sea had turned, apparently, and the family would be home that afternoon. Darn it, my peaceful weekend was soon to end. The family arrived home that afternoon, and as their trip was cut short, the mother announced that dinner would be something quickly thrown together. I don't know, let's say from the garden.
Oh, no.
To this day, I admire her creativeness in the kitchen. Very imaginative. However, at this point, I really wished that she was less enthusiastic and had opted for a takeout. But she didn't, and she proceeded to pick a variety of fresh greens from the recently drenched vegetable garden. And then she said, well, I don't need to wash. Why would you wash homegrown vegetables? You know that no nasty chemicals have been used to grow them. This was her thinking. Straight from the garden, onto the plate. I maintained my politeness and joined them at the dinner table. The children always insisted that I ate with them. Not surprisingly, I wasn't too hungry that night, and the salad just didn't tickle my fancy. So instead, I sat mortified and watched as the family munched away on their homegrown salad with their extra hidden dressing. My flippant act of revenge had escalated very quickly. I was expecting some limp leaves at the very worst, not a possible case of family poisoning on my hands. As a qualified nurse, I was imagining the gut irritation that would occur, a sleepless night of diarrhea and vomiting for all, and a lot more laundry for me. However, I said nothing. I sat there and politely declined any food, but let them munch away on their homegrown delight. The mother seemed quite pleased with her organic homegrown meal. Now, although the family ended up more or less fine, I still ask for your forgiveness, mostly for allowing 2 young children to willingly ingest some rather nasty chemicals. Also, please forgive me for harming the herb garden and the general environment. Well, I'm looking at some stern faces, Elle, I have to say. This isn't going to go very well, I don't think. Though you can understand why she was annoyed with the mother, because, as Elle correctly says, she wasn't the cleaner, she was just the au pair. What do you think, Joe?
When you're an au pair, does it involve doing light household duties as well? Possibly. I think it might. I'm not sure.
Isn't it just...
So I think it's kind of okay to say...
Can you clean the windows?
Can you just do the window? Yeah.
Okay.
I hate cleaning windows.
You're just making sure that you're not going to forgive her, aren't you?
Well, yeah, I can't believe she's actually missing this even now, even after the passing of time and all that kind of stuff, because this is just shameful. How can you sit at the table and watch somebody eat something that you've sprayed chemicals onto? And do you have any idea how long it takes to grow things in the vegetable garden and to have it destroyed by somebody just spraying Mr. Muscle on it? I'm really angry.
Take that. Anyway, so is that
not forgiven
Bobby Pryor
ever.
Yeah, resentment is dangerous, especially when you feel you've got no power. You see, it depends on the parameters and the contract, but I do know many au pairs that have been taken advantage of. So I can understand you think, okay, well, I look after the kids. These are the edges to my work, and someone's got... I mean, also, it wasn't very nice of the mum. If they've gone off on a trip and she knows that little afternoon could be used to do something that she would want to do. I mean, it's just, I think I can understand the resentment. That's not what I'm complaining about. But actually, your response is not very grown up. And you're in charge of children, and you've damaged the environment. So I'm finding it very difficult to find an alternative. So I'm with Joe. Absolutely.